Hello, everybody. It's time for portfolio recommendations, portfolio update. Okay, I'm making a few videos this week too, so check it out. My YouTube is davelevine.com, D-O-T-C-O-M. And you can also I post the videos on my Twitter, which is at davelevine0.com. All right, let's get started. So, first, crypto portfolio, everybody's favorite, Ethereum, the ETH. Okay, now you had for, I don't know, a few years, since the lows in 2022, I said this should be 50 to 90%. I even bragged. Irresponsibly long ETH. Now, let's all stay calm before you all start calling me stupid. You know, only in crypto can you be up. You know, we had 8 months to buy ETH under 1,500, right? It's been, now it's come down. It was up to 4,000, over 3,000 for quite a while. Now it's down to the low 2,000s. We're still up. Usually in investing, when you complain that, oh my God, this is a bad investment, it's usually because you're down and down a lot. You're not usually up 50% and lamenting how horrible you did. But in crypto, that's the world we live in. And let's be honest, there are several tokens that have beaten ETH, including the easy Bitcoin, right? And I still hold my same thought, which is for almost everybody, because it's so hard to pick. Everything is moving so quickly. And for a million reasons, just own Bitcoin and ETH. It's so much easier. And if you had been 50-50 Bitcoin and ETH, you'd be doing well. I'm sure it's beating the S&P 500. And so what I used to say, 50 to 90% ETH and Bitcoin 10 to 50%. Okay? So you could have had 50-50, or what I had was only 10% ETH and 10% BTC, and I was like 70% ETH, right? In hindsight, that was not the best number, right? And probably should have just had that amount in Bitcoin. Okay. Now, the other thing, I'm going to make a video about my ETH conviction and just talk specifically about ETH and where it's going. I still love it. When we get to the bottom line here, still going to be my biggest holding, but maybe not 70%. And actually, I'll tell you, certainly not. And when I think of all of the things, I still like Ethereum, but there are reasons why the token has underperformed. Some stupid, some make sense. But the biggest thing I think is, I got caught up in this, and I think what most people did was, hey, in the last cycle, ETH beat everything. It was the easy, no-brainer trade, right? The biggest, smaller market cap than Bitcoin, but otherwise, second biggest market cap, most liquid, biggest network, most activity, and it beat everything. Some things beat it on a short time frame, but for the whole course of the cycle, and I know I'm going to get a ton of messages, oh, this one token beat it for this period of time, but from from 2020 to 2022, ETH did great, and it was arguably one of the best performing in the last cycle. And so therefore, a lot of people had a lot of ETH, had a lot of confidence in it. And honestly, a lot of the fundamentals didn't really change. So why wouldn't that continue? And so I think what happened was a lot of people like me were way overweight ETH. And so then the problem is, who's left to buy it? Everybody already has too much. Like people would say to me, you like ETH? I'm like, yeah, are you buying more? Well, I'm not buying more. I'm all in, right? Everybody was all in. Then things drag on and you might need cash or you got something else. What are you going to sell? You selling the thing that you have too much of. And my assumption is that's the biggest thing that's happened here with ETH. So my new recommendation here, so BTC, I would keep 10 to 50%. In hindsight, 10% was too low when we were at the lows. ETH now, Bitcoin has overperformed. If you had a high amount, if you had 50% and now it's like 80%, you know, listen, you might want to readjust. It wouldn't be surprising to me if Bitcoin underperforms. It hasn't gone that crazy. Like, I'm not bearish on it by any means, but keep in mind, it has, you know, these things tend to happen. The thing that just beats everything, then things catch up and things balance. So I'd be a little more cautious on Bitcoin now since it's done so well. So my Ethereum, 90%, I'm no longer. Now, I don't think you can just be all in only on Ethereum. Okay, so honestly, I didn't even write that. I'm gonna make this up on the top of my head right now. I would do the same. Let's give it a 20 to. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say 20 to 40%. But I had more than that, right? And I'm going to talk about my rest of my portfolio. I think if you're over, and you'll see with my portfolio, I do have a target of ETH being not so dominant in my portfolio. And there's ways to do that without capitulating, losing, like trading from ETH, which is a high risk, can go up a lot, to an application that's also high risk, can go up a lot. You're not, it's different than trading into dollars. We'll get into that. Bottom line, though, is at these kind of transitions, you know, if I was at 70%, it's not like, oh, I'm just going to sell a shitload tomorrow. This is over months, many months, possibly a year to readjust your portfolio. So let's leave that. We'll see how the rest of this goes here. Okay. Like I said, I'm gonna make another video just about my ETH thoughts because I can go on all day about it. So, okay. So there's that. So technically, between those two, you could have 90% of your portfolio just ETH and BTC, or I guess if you were gonna only have two, 50-50 is still fine. Okay. So next, you know, I got some good confidence here in this Aave. Now, it has done well. And so, unfortunately, I don't know if, you know, I tweet to keep you, you know, I was scared of Aave in the crash because they had some bad debt issues and I didn't know what would happen. I don't like anything that has a chance of going to zero. It looked risky. They survived that with the Curve token, and there was some controversy. That got settled, and the market started moving, and I got in. You know, I would have been better off had I held it, right? But listen, I'm also going to make a video all the mistakes I've made. I don't even know that that's a mistake. I was minimizing risk. But anyways, you know, I've gotten back in pretty well. The thing I like about Aave is, you know, I like these investments where size matters, liquidity begets liquidity. Like borrowing and lending is something where the more money you have, the better it is, and then the more money you get. It makes it very hard for competitors to take them out. Aave has the deepest lending markets. It's run really well. I don't know if making profits is the right term, but functionally the income it's generating from its, and they're using that to buy back tokens. And they are, I don't know if they just launched or they're going to launch something that they're able to pool all of their liquidity on all the different chains together, which makes their liquidity and size even more powerful. So, and borrowing and lending is a huge market too. So this thing to me looks great. Now, again, it's beat a lot of other things. And so, you know, take your time if you're getting into something that you're not in it at all. Just don't do 10% tomorrow. I mean, I don't know what your numbers are, but anyways, and listen, this is one I'm feeling good about it. Now, another one that's new, it's not totally new. If you've been following me, so MKR, MakerDao, now is being branded Sky. Both tokens exist. They're interchangeable. They're trying to transition to the new one. I'm holding the sky. I don't think it matters. So stable coins are going to be legalized in the US. And the whole stablecoin market is dollars. Banks, though, aren't allowed to use them. Financial institutions, stores are not allowed to accept stablecoins as payments. It's just not, and it's not even explicitly there's a law against it. There's just no clarity on what the law is. And so no one is using them. Stablecoins are going to become legalized. And this is going to be a huge boost. There's already, whatever, $200 billion worth of stablecoins out there. It's going to get bigger. So I like investing in companies that can benefit from that. Now, the two biggest, Tether and USDC, you can't invest in. Those are private, centralized companies. Circle might go public, and maybe that'll be a good IPO to buy. I don't know. But the third biggest is this one. Now, granted, they have 10 billion in stable coins, and Tether is like 150 billion. So, I usually like to buy the leader, but you can't. But there is something to be said for a decentralized stablecoin, which this is. And there's arguments that I've heard that are like, in the long run, the decentralized system for stablecoins can grow larger than the centralized ones. A lot of room for growth. And I just think with stablecoins in general, there's going to be a lot of growth in general in the market. They're well positioned as number 3 size. So I like it. What percent do we have here? I guess, a 5%. And, keep in mind, I keep these percent small because it's so, if you've been following me, how many things did I think, and Frax, right? It's a stable coin company, right? Protocol. And I think they were the third biggest back in 2021 or something. And still, I look at Frax. The tech is great. They have all these things. And so far they failed. Their stablecoin, they had over $1 billion back when $1 billion was a lot of money in stablecoins. And since 2021, it's just gone like this. It's down to 300 million. They're not even a player. And so these things move really fast from being a leader, right? When they had $1 billion, I think Sky only had, it was 2 or 3 billion. They were close, and Frax was growing faster. And then here we are 2 years later, and they're gone. So you have to be so nimble and on top of things, and it's very risky. So I always worry advising anyone, even talking about this crap, because a lot of people, this whole lottery ticket mentality that people have, oh, I want to buy the small thing. Oh, I want to buy the new thing. Oh, I want to lose money in meme coins. I don't know. It's dangerous. So, and then we also got Link. Link is just, this thing is, it just feels really solid. Building infrastructure for oracles. I don't know if you want to explain Oracle, sending out information on price and other things to blockchains. This is very important infrastructure. I don't think they have any competition. Years ago, I was tentative on Link, although they were the leader. I thought that others it would get competitive. It really hasn't. For some reason, they just seem to kill it. They're leading by far. The founder was in the White House. They're talking with all the central banks. I like it. Looks good, okay? Now the next thing, let's talk about layer 2 tokens. Now, again, erase first. Talking about places that I've been wrong. I really thought, so layer 2s have been growing. If you look at this L2 beat, it's a L2beat.com. It can show you statistics on all the layer 2s and their volume. If you look at the long-term chart, here's transactions on Ethereum, the base chain, and here's transactions on layer 2 chains. And Ethereum really is, the setup is Ethereum, right? The base layer chain is the settlement, the final arbiter of truth. And then you have all these layer 2s. And there'll be thousands. And they settle, they batch, they confirm, and the final word of trust for all the L2s goes into ETH. Right? That's the setup. And so when you talk about Ethereum, you really are talking about the Ethereum ecosystem and all of these combined. And now I'll talk about this in this ETH video I want to make a little bit more, but there's all kind of controversy or complaints that, well, all these L2s can't communicate with each other well, and they're working on that. And, well, the L2s aren't paying anything for their settlement, so ETH, all these guys are getting a free ride, and it's not helping the ETH token. There's all kinds of complaints about this roadmap. And like I said, we'll get into it. In the long run, I think it's great. I think it's the only way to do it. Whatever. I don't want to usurp my portfolio update with this. But I really thought also that these L2s would be viewed more positively than they are. The L2 tokens have been crap, right? You've got OP. Let's erase this. Okay, you've got Optimism, you've got Arbitrum. These are the largest, most successful. You've got Polymarket. And the other thing, I'm gonna call Coinbase an L2, and this one's been doing well. And we'll talk about this in a minute. So, as far as transactions growing, volume growing, doing well, these chains have been growing. I mean, even Polygon, where it's like hard to get any info, and then I read this report comes out and all of their growth, everything. I mean, the fundamentals seem to be okay, but people just aren't excited about L2s as an investment. The tokens have been terrible. Polygon. And again, why I tell you, watch out for these small ones. Polygon is one, now it has underperformed from some of my expectations fundamentally, right? Their upgrades were slower than expected. Some of the adoption hasn't happened. There's all kinds of problems. But in general, it's just been the mood of the market. I mean, this is different than when Frax just sort of failed at achieving what their goal is, which is increasing stablecoins. I don't know that Polygon's failed. A little slow, but they haven't failed. But their token is like, I don't know, it's down like 60% from 2022. I mean, it's a disaster. So these have all performed horribly. Now, I used to say, I was like, I got some airdrops. I got a few free tokens from these, and like, okay, I'll hold them. But Polygon, I thought I was optimistic. That was my 10%, the only thing I'm willing to buy, and it's been the worst. And so, in my recommendations now, well, what first of all, if you had 10% in Polygon and you didn't do anything, it's now probably 4% anyways, right? And then I did dollar cost average some of this out to buy, if I was I don't know, what did I say there? The Sky and, I forgot to mention Athena. Is that on my list? Oh, yeah, that's coming in a second. And, I don't remember, but I've, so now my Polygon, I still have it. I'm sure it's more than these stupid things, but it's been a bit of a disaster. Okay. And then I started thinking about, I'm like, but geez, Coinbase, what's interesting is Coinbase using its base protocol. Well, so that's the other L2, right, is Base, which is sort of run by Coinbase. And this one has been killing it. It's possibly the second biggest. I feel like it's a good competitor to Solana. And that's a whole nother topic. I think it's been a bit of a Solana bubble, and I think that thing comes back to earth. But anyways, Base has been doing well. It's but you can't invest in the base L2 token. You can own the Coinbase stock. And I guess, so Coinbase stock, I'm going to talk about the stock portfolio too. Is Coinbase like a stock, or is it really a crypto investment? And it's almost like an L2. It's another chain, and more of its volume will be settling, I think, to Ethereum. I mean, it's sort of a crossbreed of whether you consider it a stock, because it still is a centralized company earning profits, probably on most of its business. But it's a bit of an L2. And when I looked at my position on this, if you call Coinbase an L2, this is another 5% in my crypto portfolio, if you look at it that way. Okay, so I don't know if I need to say more about that. Okay, so now if you've been adding up all the percents, it's probably 140%, or maybe it's 70%. I don't know where we're at. These are, general recommendations, not an exact science. But there's only probably a few percent left. And now we get to the things where, it's like when I've said with these things, 1 or 2%, and nobody listens to me, and they buy a lot, and then years later they're like, oh, that thing was horrible. I'm like, well, I told you to put these things, it's a little lottery ticket-ish, right? So now another stablecoin one that I like. My main reluctance to it, it's hard to wrap your head around it. Athena, okay? I believe it's with an E, ETH, Athena. I don't even want to start explaining how it works here. Basically, instead of backing it with treasuries, it does they own ETH and a short position against the ETH that should balance it so that it stays flat, which stays constant price like $1. And they can make money. Well, if the ETH goes up, they make money. If it goes down, they make money on. Well, it should stay even, but they also make money on just that on each, like, doing these or the are they selling the shorts? I don't know. I think I was able to explain it a month ago, and now I forgot. Bottom line is, do your research if you want to be in this thing, and if you can fully understand it and like it, maybe buy more than me. But I'm doing my best to study about it. I have a little bit. I might get this is where 1 to 2% for these things, at least for the level of conviction. This one I mostly don't know. The next one in that category is Uni, and to be honest with Uni, I'm almost ready to get out of it, and not because it's not like I have a conviction that it's bad. It's more that I've lost my ability to know what the heck they're doing. I just don't. So, my conviction with Uniswap used to be pretty simple. They're the biggest decentralized exchange. Like I said before, I like things where liquidity begets liquidity. People say, oh, this other exchange is better. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's better, but if you want to sell $100 million worth of ETH and not move the price, you're not going there. You're going to Uniswap. And now Uniswap has more volume, and then more people go to Uniswap. And it's like, why are they leading? Well, they're leading because they're leading. Why are they going to keep leading? They're going to keep leading because they're leading. Like, I like stuff like that. Now, the problem today with Uniswap is, first of all, are they leading? It's hard to measure. There's so many decentralized exchanges on so many different chains, and there's so much variety. It's just hard to even find statistics that clearly show what's going on, not to mention the volatility. I mean, everybody with Solana's doing more volume than Solana's doing the most volume, because of this meme coin mania. And if you look at Solana's decentralized exchange volume, it went boom, boom, and now it's already below, Ethereum DEXs are doing more because the meme thing just died. Like, it's hard to analyze. The other thing is Uniswap just upgraded, which might actually be a sign that they're great, but I'm not able to, I don't know. They got this thing, Hooks, which I think is, what is it, version 4. And they also have the Uni chain. Now, I'm unable to, I don't even understand what the hooks are and whether it's doing well. Maybe it's like amazing and I should be holding and excited, but I don't know. I don't know how to know that. And then Unichain, from what I can see, it looks like it's getting no volume. It looks like Frax and Frax Chain, they spent a ton of time, launched their own chain, and if you build it and then nobody comes, it's sad. And almost, I'm not going to say every instance, but most of the time, this app chain, an app gets its own chain. It seems to has failed every time. Now, in the long run, it might be a model, and maybe it's just we're too early for that model to work. And I think Axie Infinity, they built their own chain for their apps, and I think it's doing okay. I don't really know. But hey, you don't hear anything about Axie this cycle, so I don't know. But the Uni chain so far looks not good. So why am I holding this? Again, it's not that I'm going to sell it because I know it's bad. I don't know what it is anymore. And I like to hold things that I understand, that I love, that I have conviction in. I don't have that with Uni anymore. I got a lot of tokens with their airdrop for free. Maybe got a few more at $3. So it's easier for me to just bail than, those who got in at $30. So I don't know. That one is possibly on the chopping block, but for some reason I hang on. I have this love for Uni. And finally, here's another thing that I just started playing with. And in fact, I'm going to make a little video because I don't know if you know. So there's this guy, Andre Cronje. He was like the star of 2017 with Yearn, and then he was with Phantom Chain, and then he disappeared. But it turns out he disappeared because the feds were on his ass. And not because he did anything bad, but because he's good. Remember, the old administration, they went after the good guys, not the bad guys. But now he's back with this Sonic chain. And he loves DeFi, and I wonder if throwing a couple bucks on this chain, they got an airdrop coming in June. Is this for me, I don't do meme coins. This is my meme coin. It's not a meme coin. Like it's a lottery ticket. But also it could have a fun. And the other thing I saw on Sonic, it's like, well, the next thing I want to get to is actually holding stable coins that earn yield, right? But so if you want to own a couple stable coins that earn yield, go on Sonic. And it's just, if you do anything on the chain now, you're eligible. So instead of holding stable coins earning 5% on Ethereum, I own stable coins on Sonic and get a bunch of Sonic points. Aave's on Sonic. You get a bunch of points towards the airdrop, and that's my commit. So that's not that risky. I'm just putting some dollars there, and instead of earning 5% here, I'm earning Sonic tokens at the airdrop, which might be more than the interest. So there's some fun ways to play here. I don't want to get too into it, and like I said, this is new, and it might be stupid. Okay, let's just be clear, but I'm also going to drop a little video talking about that because I think the whole story of Andre is interesting. Interesting guy, and maybe, we'll see. Okay, so now the last thing, my percents, I remember they didn't add up, and this is why what I would like to get to is 30% stables earning 5 to 10%, yield. Now, some of you may say, well, that's lame. 5 to 10% a year. I want 10x. Yeah, I get it. But let's just keep aware that it's possible that, hey, the 4-year cycle thing is over, the boom bust thing. There'll be booms and busts here and there, but the whole market and all this stuff. What if that's not happening and we're in a world that is like real and like normal? Well, then 5 to 10% is pretty good. I also think in the long run here, we're heading to a world with higher interest rates. And there'll be some opportunities where there's so much going on in crypto where you can find some decent yields holding dollars. And it's a diversification. I think this makes sense. For me also, as somebody who needs dollars because I don't work, I don't have income. So maybe I have a slightly higher interest in having some dollars so that when I need money, I already have them and I don't have to sell something at the wrong time or whatever. But I like this. With my ETH at 70%, part of that is into those other tokens I mentioned. The other thing is gradually more stablecoins earning yield. Now, for those of you who are like, oh, Dave, you said you're going to hold ETH until you get to 10,000. Well, yeah, but I didn't say how much ETH. I mean, listen, my plan was, we're going to have a 4-year cycle, then we're going to 10,000. We got to start thinking maybe that's not happening, right? And so when I say selling some ETH to go into stable coins at this point, first of all, I don't know that I want to sell anything at 2,000. But hey, if the thing runs up to, if it starts getting over 3, I look at the life as we live in the real world. And if I got into ETH at 300 in 2000, whatever, 18, 19, $300. And then when we sold over 3,000 in 21 and then back in under 1,500, if it's over 3,000 in a couple years, that's good. I don't have to be embarrassed about reducing my tremendous overweight of ETH to get into stable coins earning yield. My favorite stable coins, USDS. So USDS, that's the Sky, remember MakerDao, their token. And then if you stake it, and they're paying, the yield was really high. It was like 12%. Came down to it's 5 or 6%. I think it's very safe. You got the ENA. I mentioned Athena's token. Is it EUSD? Or is it USDE? Oh, shoot. You've got the Athena, whatever Athena's token is, and that's another one where you can lock it and earn a pretty high yield. There's all, I'm trying to think of any more off that. This is new for me. I don't want you to think, oh, I sold a ton of ETH and went into stables. I haven't. But I've been thinking, I need to get started on this. It very slowly at this point. I don't really want to sell now. I don't need cash either. But I'm not just going to wait forever for 10,000 ETH. I mean, at some point, being 70% ETH, I'm admitting, was too high. And if you think about it, now in 2022, having ETH instead of stablecoins was a good idea, right? I think ETH has outperformed stables earning 10% yield since 2022. But since 2023, stables have beaten it. I don't know if I got that. Did I get that year right? I mean, yes, that was that initial jump when it got over 2,000. So now it's been flat. So if I had been holding stables earning yield for the last 2 years, much lower risk and possibly outperforming. What if the shit goes on for a few more years? And also, when you're talking about, missing out, FOMO, what if ETH does go up 10x? Well, if 30% of my portfolio is in ETH, I'm still making a lot of money, just not an insane amount of money. And so we're managing risk here. So I hope that makes some sense. What else? I forgot to mention one thing. Let's go in reverse a little bit here. This I should have mentioned when I was talking about ETH. Staked ETH versus regular ETH. Now my original plan was, I had I think 50% of ETH is staked, 50% is just regular. The yield on it now is very low, so who even cares that much? And it's, I don't know, is it 3%? You get extra ETH, but it's something. But it's at the beginning it was 6%, you can get 7%. Now, so it's a small percent. And my thought was, when the market's booming and we're getting, we're in this crazy thing and it's going high, sell the staked ETH because that could become less liquid in the crash, and then hold, and then you can get back into it in the crash. But we're not having that boom. So now, if I'm going to sell any ETH, I keep the staked ETH because it looks like I'm going to be staying in it longer than expected if we don't get the boom. So I want to keep that. And I would sell my regular ETH in order to get the stables or those other risk tokens. Okay? And so my percent, if before it was 50-50, I don't know how high it goes, but I'm going to sell this so that it becomes 70-30 or 80-20 staked ETH. Okay? So, I forgot to mention that earlier. Finally here, let's talk about stocks, right? I actually tweeted about this, BRK.B, which I like better than, I like this more than S&P 500 ETFs. Now, that had always been the case for me, or I would say to people buy either, and sometimes I would just say S&P 500 because it's easier for people to understand. But I always preferred Berkshire Hathaway, and now even more, because S&P 500 has become largely, a big part of it is the Magnificent Seven tech stocks. Now, if I didn't own any tech, maybe that would be fine. But I'm like Mr. Tech here with a ton of crypto, and when you look at the rest of my stocks, although my stocks aren't too bad except for Tesla, but I don't need more high tech. I'm exposed enough to that. Berkshire Hathaway, to me, is more diversified in things that I don't own anything close to, right? He's got the oil companies. The only energy I like is uranium, and he's got oil, and he's got all these just regular companies. Like, I like that. And they have a lot of cash, where I'm talking about, I wish I had a little bit more cash, portfolio-wise, and I'll get there. But he's got a ton of cash. So I like the setup on Berkshire Hathaway better than S&P 500 right now. So for stocks, that's 25% of the stock portfolio. Okay? Next, I love, I don't know how you could not, love Tesla. Give that another 25%. I mean, they're cranking out the best cars. The robo taxi is coming. I have a Tesla. The auto driving is amazing. Like, you don't need to do anything. Like, I could go take a nap in the back seat. If it would let me, I would. I trust it. It is way better than me driving. When I drive now, I feel like this is dangerous. This should not be letting me drive. Tesla car shouldn't allow me in the front seat. But anyways. And then they got the robots. And the only risk I saw to Tesla was you had the vandals in Washington trying to put the guy in jail and lawfare and get rid of him so that they could steal more. And now he's in there stopping stealing. I love it. Okay, it's been going down a lot lately just because risk is coming off. People are nervous. I think I'm also going to make a video on the macro situation, what's going on. Markets coming down in general, and that'll hurt Tesla. But for 5 years from now, I like it. I like it a lot. Next, let's do another 25%. Let's just call it international. And I just have two that I like. India and China. China seems to, I had India for a while. China recently, because it hit some lows. They're printing a bunch of money. And China just is killing it economically, like as far as manufacturing. And people just seem, down on it. like as if they're not that powerful and strong economically. I think the valuations have come down. So, you know, those are my two international. Then, still for energy, uranium, you got URNM, which is the mining companies for uranium. And then, I didn't write this one down if I get it right. Oh God. That's not right. There's some uranium thing that looks similar to that. Something's wrong. And first of all, it's only 4 letters. And it's just the uranium itself. I like uranium just because it's the cheapest, safest, most efficient, I don't know if I got that right, energy source. And the only issue has been regulations. I think those regulations are coming off. People are starting to realize that in general. And I think what's going on with the government here in the U.S., I expect regulations to be reduced and we get a boom in nuclear, building up nuclear. And I think that's underappreciated. So that's where I put my energy investment. Let's give that a 10%. Okay. And then finally, you know, you got to have some gold. I think, you know, with, you know, the multipolar world coming on, trust being reduced, I don't know if we should increase our faith in the dollar now because we have an attempt to bring some, you know, responsibility or proper management in the U.S. government. But it's a long road. I don't know. Gold, I think you could hold some gold. I don't think all this is adding up to 100%, but maybe a 10% gold. And you got GLD as an ETF. You can, I don't know, buy real gold and hold it. You got the miners. I think GDX is small miners. Gold is what is that one? That's like one of the biggest miners. Those are all options. I don't know what's best here, but I think a little gold makes some sense. And I think that's all we got, my friends. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Remember, you can find me and watch the other videos on Twitter at, how do you draw the at sign? Dave Levine. And then at Twitter, it's after the Levine, it's 0, the number 0, com. And on YouTube, it's dot. On YouTube, it's davelevine.com. All right, guys. Thank you. See you soon.